come online because I was occupied with some issues. And thank God that it's been solved, and we are back tonight. And I want to say thank you very much for all those people that called and all those people that were asking on Facebook when we're coming up. Well, we're back, and I'm so glad to be back. Like I always say, the first thing I always want people to do when you just see me online like this is just to click that share button. I want you to share this video and keep inviting your friends. And that's why I take a little time, I mean, at the beginning like this, so that we get everything set and you get yourself set. I also want you to get your pen and your paper, if possible, if you want to do that, so that you can take some notes. If you don't forget, we're going to be continuing in the topic that we started 2 weeks ago now. And how do I handle failure in life? That's what we're talking about. When I mean life, I mean how do you handle failure in life, in business, in ministry, in your personal goals and visions that you have, and everything that you set your hands to do. And we've been able to establish a couple of points which I think, if I have the chance, I should quickly go through briefly over those points. But I will actually encourage you to go over the video. I mean, that's the best thing you can do. I mean, because there is no amount of review I can make right now that can cover the whole lot of stuff we've talked about. And tonight, by the grace of God, I'll go slowly, because tonight is going to be actually teaching. We're going to be teaching ourselves, and we're going to be learning from one another. And I would love to take questions. Akintoye Oluwasegun Ogundiya, I'm so happy that you are joining right now. I love you, brother. That's my blood brother. I love you, brother, and I wish you success tomorrow, okay? You know what I'm talking about. You're going to go out there and you're going to shine. Honestly, you need this topic tonight, because I've seen you go through pains. I've seen you go through lots of obstacles, and I know that you are never a failure, and that's why tonight is for you. I dedicate tonight to you, okay, and to your success, to your future. And every other person that is watching, every other person that has been wounded before, every other person that has fallen before, every other person that has experienced a failure, a challenge in your ministry, in your life, in your business, in your family, in your finances, but you're getting up and you're forging ahead. And even those that have been finding it difficult to understand what failure is, to learn from it and to move on, I dedicate it to you tonight. Lots of people just flowing in tonight. Okay, now let's start off by looking at what we've talked about so far. We've talked about how to handle failure in life, business, and ministry. I was taking some points. The first point I talked about 2 weeks ago is the fact that failure is not absolute in itself, but failure is relative. Okay, so because someone failed in something and in a particular manner doesn't mean that you have also failed if you do the same thing, or you're going to fail if you do the same thing. Okay, so failure is not absolute, it's relative. That you fail does not mean that I'm going to fail. That you had a particular result does not mean that if I have the same result, I failed. It depends on some factors, okay? And we were able to look at the parameters also that helps us to define failure. So the first thing I said is you must be able to define what failure is for you. That's the first point. I mean, if you understand the fact that failure is not absolute, then you need to be able to understand what failure is, okay? And we were able to define failure to consist of two phenomena, two parameters, okay, that helps us to define what failure is. The first one is goals, okay. The goals that we set actually decide or defines failure for each person. As a family, if you have set a goal, let me use a financial goal, that okay, at the end of this year we want to save 10,000 euros. If that family has been able to save 8,000, I can tell you categorically that particular year financially they failed because they did not achieve their goal. But it's very possible for another family to save 100,000 euros. I mean, but maybe their target was 200,000 euros. the fact that they saved more than the first family doesn't mean that they have succeeded. They also failed. Why? Because they did not achieve their goals. So when you talk about failure, you need to understand the parameter of goals. Okay, so that helps you to define failure, and that helps you define failure for yourself and for whatever you do. The second thing we talked about is the parameter that is a variable, and that is time. Like I said the other time, I mean, if you set a goal for a year, if you don't achieve it after 12 months, I can tell you that you're already failing. But the parameter that is variable, which is time, and I mean, as the word says, variable, it means that you can change it. It can be changed, it can be modified, it can be bent. Okay, so you can reset it. All right, so that's the good thing about the word failure. Okay, so a lot of times you think that you have failed, but the truth is, if you look at it critically, probably you can change that variable, that time, that parameter. If you are able to change it, listen to me, you have not failed. Okay, you are still on your way to success. I mean, you can call it a retraso, like Spanish people will say. You can say that you have had a delay, you can say that you've had challenges, but that doesn't mean that you have failed. Okay, so I mean, what does that signify to us? It means that, honestly, in most of the endeavors that we put our hands on in life, we've never failed until we are dead. Because as long as you have life, you can always change that variable, that time variable, and also achieve more than you have achieved so far. Okay, so we've been able to talk about that point. That is very important. Okay, so let me just quickly go to the second point that we talked about, and that's the fact that you must be able to define the objects and the elements that are engaged in the activity, all right, or in whatever has failed. I mean, you need to be able to identify all the roles that everything or everyone has played in that activity. For example, if you have had a business that has failed, you need to understand what really failed. Was it your decision? Was it the economy? Was it the society? Was it the consumers? Was it the producer? You need to be able to really define the object, the roles that they have played. Because if you are unable to do that, you find out that you can label yourself a failure when, as a matter of fact, you have not failed. If I look at my country, for example, I look at the life people live, and I was thinking about these after the teaching 2 weeks ago. And let me quickly share these. I mean, this is just by the way, but let me quickly share these for Nigerians that are watching me. Okay, I asked myself that question: that what has really failed in Nigeria? Has Nigeria failed the people, or has the people failed Nigeria? I mean, I think it's a question that we need to begin to ask ourselves. What has really failed in Nigeria? Is it the people that failed Nigeria, or Nigeria failed the people? I mean, I'm not going to go there tonight. I just want to drop it, into our hearts, because a lot of times we lay blames, we point fingers, but we have never really sat down to define, the people and the objects and the situation that is around the failure that we talk about. And if you're unable to do that for your life, you might live a life of frustration. You might actually count yourself as a failure when in fact you have not failed. If you have been failing in mathematics in school, I mean, I have known a lot of people that have been called failures and have been told that they can never achieve much in life. Why? Because they were not good in mathematics, or they were not good in science, and they believed it for themselves, and they went their way and did something else. I mean, they just killed their destiny. You see people given to drugs, people given to malpractices and all that. Why? Because they have believed that they can never, be good, because they failed in maths and science. But that's not the truth. I mean, maybe they were supposed to be good footballers. So that doesn't mean that they are failures. It just means that they are not good. They don't have the capacity for sciences. Okay, so don't label yourself a failure if you are unable to define the objects and the people that are around what you have failed in. So that's the second point, which is very important. Okay, so I just put this here, and I said to us last week that you do not call yourself a failure when things fail around you, but you are still winning on your inside. So when you don't stop winning on the inside, honestly, I'm telling you, you are never a failure. Even if things fail around you 100 times, as long as you on your inside, you know that no, you have not failed, you know that you are not giving up, you cannot label yourself, and you cannot allow people to label you a failure. All right. And I said also that you do not lie to yourself by pointing fingers when the failure has already taken control of your inside. So if you have failed on your inside, you only be fooling yourself yourself if you keep pointing fingers and you keep blaming blames on people. All right, you need to look inside and see whether you still have the fight on your inside. So if you don't have the fight on your inside anymore, hello, you are already failing, or maybe you have failed, and you need to really get yourself back and stop pointing fingers, stop blaming blames on people. All right, now, so we talked about that, and we talked about so many other things. Like I said, I will encourage you to go back and see that video from 2 weeks ago. But today we want to go on. We want to move on straight tonight to the third point. I'm going to discuss this very briefly, and I will take some questions. I really want people to, to come out and really ask questions tonight. I want us to exchange opinions. And by the grace of God, let me just say this. Next week, I'm going to be having someone, maybe one or two people on this program. They're going to be calling in, and it's going to be awesome. These are people that you need to look forward to. Hopefully, by the time I concretize everything, I'm going to play some adverts on TopSol page and on Clevernat page, so that you will know the people that are coming next week. But honestly, you don't want to miss it, okay? So tonight, we're going to go a bit further, and let's look at the third point. And the third point I want to talk about tonight says, accept that there is a failure. Okay, one of the things that has made people not to learn in life and not to grow in life is the fact that we find it very difficult to accept failure. We presume and assume that when you accept failure, then you become a failure. No. If you have listened to me earlier on, if you've been with me 2 weeks ago, you will understand by now that you are not a failure until you have agreed that you are a failure. Okay, so when things fail around you, please accept that they failed. I was just wondering today, and let me just put this out as a question. Probably I'm not going to answer these questions. Probably I'm going to invite a man of God or a pastor to help me out, because I think one of my role models in life, my major role model in life is Jesus Christ. And we believe that Jesus was so perfect. But I began to ask myself that if Jesus is my role model, then I think that I should be able to learn from him how to handle failure. I should be able to see how he handled failure. Then the question came to me that, did Jesus ever fail? Maybe I'm asking you the same question tonight. Maybe some of us, we've never thought about that before. Did Jesus ever fail in his 32 years of ministry? Did he ever fail? If he never failed, it means that we should never fail, okay, as Christians. But I don't think that Jesus went through 32 years without failures. Okay, now, I said I'm not going to answer the question, but this is what I want you to begin to think about. I'm going to be inviting people next week, and we're going to be dealing with this very seriously. Because as a Christian, sometimes, when you fail, you feel like, am I really a child of God? Why should I fail in business? Why should I fail in my exams? And you see people, I've even seen people tell Christians, Christians like them, brothers, let's use the word brothers in Christ, telling each other and measuring their faithfulness to God by the amount of success or failure that they've had in life. If you failed in a thing, the next thing they go to do is, maybe you have sinned, maybe you have backslided. Is that right? I don't think that's right, okay? We need to understand that there is something called failure, and you should understand how to accept failure. Okay, so that's the third point that I put here. Laulu Abimbola, thank you very much. It says Jesus can never fail. Okay, you see, Jesus can never fail. Let me talk about that a little bit. Like I said, Jesus is our perfect example, and like Laulu said, Jesus can never fail. But were there things that failed in the life of Jesus, in the ministry of Jesus? I can tell you that there were so many things. Maybe you've never seen it in this light before. Let me explain it a little bit, because such questions are so, ambiguous to just leave like that. Did you remember that there was a time that Jesus didn't have any money at all, not even his disciples, to pay tax? Do you know how important tax is? Maybe in Nigeria we might not really understand this, but in Europe, whether you work or you don't work, as long as you have residence permit in Europe, you must pay tax. Hello, you must pay tax. It's compulsory. You don't run away from it. There is no way you run away from it. It's like your house rent. Whether you're working or you're not working, you must pay your house rent. All right? But Jesus, at a point, he had financial failure. That's how I'll put it, because he didn't have money. But how did he handle that? You can't tell me that wasn't failure. then what will you call that? When you're broke. When you're broke, my friend, you're broke. Okay? Jesus was broke, but there was a miracle. Even money came out from the mouth of the fish. I mean, he could have given up. Maybe if he wasn't Jesus, if he wasn't going to be a perfect example, he could have given up and said, well, I think we have failed. This ministry has failed. But that's why Laulu said Jesus can never fail. And I accept that. Jesus can never fail because Jesus always understood how to define whatever situation was happening around him. Jesus was never a failure. A failure is the person, like I said to you, that has given up on his inside. That is in particular circumstances and goes like, well, I think this is not just possible. Let's just forget it. I mean, I just failed in this and that's it. Jesus never fails. He said, even go into the mouth of the fish and you're going to find money. And there was a solution. And that is the attitude we must have. Not that failure won't come. My brother, failure will come. And when it comes, accept it. Jesus knew that they had no money. And he did not say, well, I'm the Son of God. I'm not supposed to pay, tax. I mean, I can't pay tax. No. He said, listen, we have to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. He understood that, listen, this we must do, okay, is the solution that we have to look for. Jesus was teaching on a field one day, and they had about 5,000 people. They had not enough money to feed these people. It's like having a convention, and there was, I don't know whether they planned to feed people or not, but what happened was there was no food. And he asked, okay, can we raise some money? I mean, do we have enough money in the pocket to feed? They said, sir, we don't. Our account is dry. Jesus didn't send the people away. You know what the disciples said? Let's send them away. Let's just accept that we have failed. And that's it. Let's just tell them, brethren, no, we have failed. Sorry, you have to go home. Jesus said, no, that's not how it works. He never accepts failure. Even when situations are on the extreme, even when situations are against the plans, even when situations are not working according to what should have been, he always looked for a solution. But that failed. But he looked for a solution and he solved it. So one thing I'm trying to say here tonight is this. I mean, when there is something that is failing, accept that it's failing. But you don't call yourself a failure. And that's why Jesus never failed. Things failed, but Jesus never failed. You remember Elijah? The water failed them. Everything was bitter. But he did not accept that. I mean, so we need to understand that when things fail, we need to know that it's failing. But we need to know that it is not us that is failing. That's what I'm saying here tonight. Okay? So, I can go on and on and on. You know the disciples, even his own disciples, they failed him. Do you remember when he said they should be praying for him? Even when he himself, his own faith almost failed him. He said, God, take this cup away from me. He needed angels to minister to him. His strength failed. His strength as a man. Jesus was 100% man. His strength at that point failed. But the angels ministered unto him. His disciples slept off. Many ran away. Okay, so don't tell me that nothing failed around Jesus. There are so many things that failed around him that has put a lot of people, that has failing in the lives of people today and have put them in a condition where they've called themselves failures. But none of those situations ever overcame Jesus. And that's why he's the perfect example. And that's why you need to understand how he handled every situation that came to him. And that's how you have to be until you die. Even on the cross, they laid the sin of the whole world upon him. But he did not see it like that. He went into hell, he fought it out, and he came back with the key of eternal life. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Do you know the most interesting part that I remember today was the fact that in his hometown, Jesus, in his hometown, he couldn't perform a miracle. You know, I looked at that and it was to me as though, I mean, you are a professor of mathematics, and you've trained a lot of people that are graduates, and you've given scholarship to people, but in your own family, there is no one that is educated. How do you think people will call you? You know how people label such people? They say, he's a failure, he's just making mouth around. That was what happened to Jesus. In his own hometown, there was no miracle, none at all. And they've heard him raising dead, healing the sick, but in his hometown, no miracle. But did Jesus say he has failed? No, because he understood that it wasn't his own problem. It was their problem because they didn't have faith in him. I mean, so you need to understand this concept of failure. If not, I mean, you're going to put yourself in a lot of mess, and you're going to put yourself down a lot of places. All right. Now, so the third point here is you have to accept that there is a failure. You have to accept that there is a situation. You have to accept that there is a problem. Okay, you have to accept that. A lot of us don't want to accept that, but you have to accept that. I'm going to read, because I took time to really write today, so I'm going to read out some of the things that I've written. I hope it blesses you now. It says, if you have well defined what failure is, okay, maybe the unmet goals, the unaccomplished missions, the disappointing colleagues or partners, maybe you committed a sin, and etc. I don't know what the failure could be. You need to understand the role each player has played in the failure and the cause of the failure. You need to really understand what caused the failure. You don't need to keep crying over it. Oh, I just lost 7,000 euros. Oh, how did I just lose 7,000? No. Why did you lose 7,000 euros? That's what you should begin to think about. Okay, why did you invest into the business? Why did you use that particular plan? I mean, you need to be objective. You don't just cry over spilled milk. Okay, once it's spilled, it's spilled. Let's agree that it's spilled. Okay, can we recover it? Can we refine it? Or can we get another one? Okay, so you need to be objective, and that's what I'm saying here. So no matter what the failure is, you need to be able to understand the role each player has played in the failure and the cause of the failure. Then you must accept that you are not the failure, even if you have failed in your decision. A lot of times, sometimes we fail in our decisions, okay, but you need to accept and understand that you are not the failure. Your decision can fail. You might have decided and said, okay, let's do this, and then that decision was wrong, and then the process failed. You are not the failure. It was your decision. You took it. Yes, you must take responsibility for it. But it is not you that failed. It is the decision that is wrong. Okay? So don't bring yourself down and say, oh, now I'm a failure. No. And they tell you, okay, what do you think we should do? No. I don't even want to say anything again. I mean, I don't think I can just do this. No. You are not the failure. You just took a wrong decision, for heaven's sake. Take the right one. Take another one. Even if the next decision is going to be wrong, take it. All right, so that's what I'm saying here. Accept that it is a failure, yes, but don't believe that you are the failure. Okay, accept the failure, but never the lie that you are the failure. So that's the third point that I want you to understand tonight. Accept that there is a failure, but never accept that lie that you are the failure. Let nobody tell you that. Let nobody tell you that because you have failed, you are a failure. You are never a failure until you accept it. And you should never accept that. You can make wrong decisions, you can do wrong things, but it's not you that is a failure. It is what you have done, and that is what you need to correct. Okay? I mean, there are lots of times that we make very wrong decisions, especially when it comes to business. I'm always talking about business and ministry. There are lots of times. There are lots of times that you chose maybe certain partners that you felt that, okay, now this partner can just do it for me. It might be a wrong decision. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you have failed. That decision was wrong. It caused problems. It caused failure. Yes, that's okay. Make another one. Make a change. Understand why that has failed, but never call yourself a failure. Now, the point 4, which I'm going to end up with tonight, says that, listen, this is a bit scary, all right? And this is the most important point in this teaching. And I need you to listen to it very carefully, because this can actually help a lot of people. I say you have to endure and evolve from the pain of failure. Okay, you see how scary that is right now. Okay, how do you enjoy the pain of failure? We all know that there is pain in failure. I've never seen anyone that has failed in life and did not have pain. Hello? I've never seen that. Even Jesus, when the disciples left him, he felt the pain. He said, can't you just wait on me and just pray for 1 hour? I mean, it was painful. He had to carry it by himself. I mean, it's painful when we fail. It's painful when things fail around us. It's painful when we go through it. But I'm saying here tonight that you have to enjoy it. You know what Paul was saying to us, huh? In Philippians, he says that when you go through, is it Philippians or James? He says when you go through tribulations, he says you should do what? You should endure it, and you should do what? You should rejoice in it. I know of a singer, a friend of mine. One of these days is coming on this program. Benga Adenuga and the brother Wale Adenuga. They sang a song that I love so much. It says, "I rejoice in pain." How do you rejoice in pain? Well, I'm going to tell you that briefly, but you have to enjoy the pain of failure. You have to endure the pain of failure, and then you have to evolve from the pain of failure. If you can do those three things, I mean, these are the ways by which you manage failure. You know, up until this time, we've been talking about what failure is, how to define failure, how to accept failure. But right now, how do you manage failure? This is the critical point. You have to enjoy the pain of it. You have to endure the pain of it, and you have to evolve from the pain of failure. So let's quickly talk about these. I say this is the most important point for anyone who is willing to grow and progress in life. I say that the first thing is to enjoy the pain of failure. Let me just read, what I've written down. I mean, this can go for a book. I said the reason many people do not understand how to enjoy the pain of failure is the inability to define what failure is, because they feel that they are the failures. And so, I mean, there is nothing to enjoy in that. When you have condemned yourself, when you have self-condemnation, you don't enjoy that pain. Hello? And that's the reason why a lot of people cannot understand what I'm talking about. Because the world, I mean, the system of the world, and of course, which I believe is wicked, they expect you, to accept that you are a failure, and they expect you to be in pains. Have you ever seen when Jesus liberated people from the fact that they are not failures, but what they have done is what has failed, and how people reacted? Because the world expects you to be in pain. They are not happy that you are happy. I keep realizing that, and it baffles me. Have you ever heard people that are very close to you? I mean, these are people that you share your heart with. These are people that you move with. These are people that you believe, or you think that they believe in you. And then something wrong happens to you. Maybe you're running a business, and then you have partners and you have people that you think, that they are there for you. And then all of a sudden the business crashes, and then they come to you and go like, well, I've always thought about it. I've always thought about it that you're going to fail. I knew that this was going to fail. I knew that this was not going to work. But you felt like you knew it all and all that. You always talked about it, and I knew it was going to fail. Have you heard people talk about that before? Yeah, that's how people talk. That's how people reason. Why? Because they don't expect you to succeed. Because probably they've been wounded. Probably they failed before. Have you seen people come to your ministry and go like, wow, and then you have a problem in ministry and they tell you, well, you don't know anything. You thought you knew everything, but this is how it works. I've told you before, I've been through this. This is how it works. You thought you got it right, but it's never like that. Have you heard people talk to you like that? When you failed? Why? Because they expect you to accept that you are a failure. They expect you to accept that it cannot just work. Let me tell you something tonight. That is how people think, but you don't have to think like that. When they caught the woman in adultery, red-handed, they were supposed to kill this woman. And Jesus looked at them and said, if this woman was a failure, we're supposed to kill her. Because she's a failure, she's good for nothing. That's what it means when someone is caught like that. Like, this is good for nothing. It should be killed right now. You don't have to exist anymore because you have failed. You failed your destiny. You have failed God. You have failed the society. Now we're going to kill you. And Jesus looked at her and said, okay, he that has never sinned should cast the first stone. And nobody was able to cast a stone. The same people that wanted her to die, they started walking away. And after walking away, Jesus said to her, listen, I do not condemn you. What does that mean? Like, I don't call you a failure. But what you have done is what you have failed in. Don't do that again. How else do you want us to learn? From the Bible or from the pain of failure, if not like that? If Jesus condemned that woman, even if the people didn't kill her, she was going to commit suicide. Do you know why Judas killed himself? We were told that he committed suicide, innit? He killed himself because of what? Of self-condemnation. I believe Probably not, but I believed that if Judas was going to seek for forgiveness like Peter did, probably he was going to be forgiven. How many times have you not forgiven yourself because you failed once and you never forgave yourself? A lot of people have dropped out of school because they believe that because they failed once, they failed twice, you didn't get your WAEC. I mean, Nigerians, they know what WAEC is. That's your secondary school living certificate. Because you didn't get it the first time, you didn't get it the second time, and then you give up on yourself. Do you know why you gave up on yourself? Because you condemned yourself, because you told yourself you're a failure. And I'm telling you tonight, that is not true. That is not right. You need to learn how to enjoy the pain. And the reason why you can't enjoy the pain is because you have condemned yourself. So like I'm saying here, the first thing you need to understand, okay, in managing failure is that you have to enjoy the pain of failure. It's very painful. It's very painful. It's very painful when you fail. I've failed so many times. People, if I say I want to talk about the things that I've done in life that I've failed, I'm telling you, I can speak for months, because people that know me know that I'm a very crazy person. Very crazy person. When it comes to ideas, when it comes to trying out businesses, forget it. There is virtually no business that I've not put my hands into. And I've not started. Hello? I've not started. Yeah, because I'm not a failure. Things fail, okay? But we need to grow to a point where we can enjoy that pain. So, like I said, the reason many people do not understand how to enjoy the pain of failure is the inability to define what failure is. Every time I experience failure, listen to this, every time I experience failure, I have a sense of deep inner freedom. All right. I mean, for those that are matured, for those that are growing through their failures, that have experienced it through their failure, they can relate with what I'm talking about. I mean, every time you fail, maybe you've been trying out a business and then everything collapses. The first thing I feel is a kind of freedom. Okay, because it's taking me a long sacrifice to get to that point. Now, when everything fails, the first thing is I first relax, like, okay, yeah, I'm free from this burden, okay? Because I won't lie to you, no matter how experienced you are, no matter how strong you are, every time we try something new, we have a little fear in us. Don't tell me how much of faith you have. Even those that are men of faith, they have that fear. There is always that fear of the unknown, and that is what makes God different from us. God has no fear in him, okay, and that's why the more of God we have in us, the better for us. But as humans, we always have the fear. There's fear of failure, even there is fear of success. Okay, so but when things collapse around us, there is this inner freedom that first comes. I'm talking about enjoying the pain of failure, okay? So that inner freedom comes, and then there is this joy that sustains me from the pain. So what is that joy? So how do you enjoy that pain of failure? How do you get that joy out, okay? First, you need to understand that you are not the failure. If you can sort that out, it gives you a kind of relief. Can you imagine how that woman felt when Jesus said, I do not condemn you, but do not sin again? I mean, that word, I do not condemn you, don't you think that it's lifted a burden of her? It's lifted the burden of self-condemnation. It lifted the burden of death from her. It lifted the burden of not being loved, not being accepted by everybody. You know how you relate with the fact that someone is beside you that understands what you're passing through in your time of pain, in your time of failure. Not too many people do that. Thank God I have that in my wife. When things happen, and I have a couple of friends that do that I respect so much. They tell you, Shola, it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Just calm down. And that alone gives me some joy, some peace. Like, okay, I think there is still future. There is still hope. But when you are around people that will condemn you and make you feel like a failure, you are in deep shit. Okay? You are in deep shit. I could remember a business that I did back home in Nigeria, and I will never forget this. I mean, if I've never loved my father before, I always love him for this. And I'm praying that I'm going to see him soon one day and tell this to his face, how much I love him for that statement. I ran into all this mess, and everyone was against me. Everyone was like, he's too proud. That's very easy for people. If you really want to know what people think about you or what they feel about you, you just commit one error. Make one mistake, just fail in something, and then you're going to hear how people really think about you. Like, he's too proud. He thinks he's the only one. He's been doing this, he's been doing that. And in the midst of all that, I went to my father. And my father made a statement, and he said, well, you are my son, and even if it will take me to put my life down for you, I'll stand by you. That statement was, when I heard that, it brought a relief upon my soul. It gave me some upliftment. It gave me some joy. You need people like that in your life. People that can tell you it's okay. Let's sort this out. People that can tell you that it's not over yet. We can still do something else. It's extremely important. That is one of the ways by which you find joy, even in the pain. That you enjoy the pain of failure. So it's extremely important. So I naturally begin to secrete some positive energy and positivity about the failure, with the knowledge that it is very unlikely to experience such failure again. So how do you enjoy the pain of failure? The first thing is understand that you are not the failure. The second thing is to understand that the error or the mistake that you have made, after you have analyzed the failure, you should have this joy that, well, even though I'm in pains now, but I don't think I'm going to be in this pain anymore because I have learned. All right? So that's how you enjoy it. It's painful, but you endure it because you have learned. You remember what the Bible says in Hebrews about Jesus? It says that, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross and despised the shame. Was he feeling pains at that time when he was on the cross? Oh yes, he was feeling pains. The pain of the failure of his organs, the pain of the failure of the system around him, the pain of the sin that he carried. Okay, Jesus carried the sin of the whole world. They called him all kinds of names, even though they still call him today. There were people that called him gay then, because all his disciples were men. There were people that called him fornicator. There were people that called him liar. There were people that called him murderer. All kinds of things. Why? Because every sin you can mention, they put upon Jesus upon that cross, and he carried all that. But the Bible makes us to understand that he looked at the joy that was set before him. What joy? That he has conquered this sin. That all these sins has been conquered, not just for him, but also for his own children, like me and you, if you know Jesus. All right? I'm going a bit spiritual tonight, because the truth is you cannot undo failure in life without being spiritual. It's a deep spiritual issue. It's not something you handle by philosophy or books. No, you don't read books when you fail. Have you ever failed and then the next thing is you want to read books? No, you want to think about your life. You want to reminisce, okay? And you don't do that physically. You have to search within. So you can't handle failure without being spiritual. And that's why I'm using the example of Jesus a lot. Forgive me, I'm a Christian, if that offends you, but I have to tell you that now, okay? If I know other means, I would have told you, but this is the one I know, and it works, okay? So that's why I'm inviting you to it also. But like I'm saying, enjoy that pain. Enjoy the pain, number one, knowing that you are not a failure. Number two, knowing that what you have passed through, you have overcome. You have had the experience, and then you can become a teacher, all right? You have surpassed that. It's not very likely that you commit that same error again. I've committed the sin of fornication before, and it was so terrible, all right? I'm not going into details, but it was so terrible, and it was painful, all right? At repentance and all that, crying and all that, and repenting and confessing, and the shame, okay, of people that looked up to you and all that. But I was human, okay? I'm still very human, okay? So don't look at me like all right. But at the same time, deep within me, like I'm saying, I had that joy, like, okay, well, I'll never do this again, because this is shameful, this is terrible. All right, now I know how it feels. I'm not going to do that again, okay? Even if there's a woman now, I'll better run, okay? That's what I'm talking about. When you fail in business like that also, okay, I've invested into this, okay, now this was my error. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have taken that step. I shouldn't have loaded that container. I shouldn't have employed such a person like this. I shouldn't have used this method. Okay. Now, while you are still in the pain, you are enjoying it because you see yourself as a teacher, as a master, even to the things that you've passed through. That's what I'm talking about. So that's how you enjoy the pain of failure. Now, I must admit that it's extremely difficult. Okay, it's difficult. It's not something that you grow and you just enjoy overnight. No, it's something that you grow into. It's something that you have to practice with time. From little mistakes, from little failures, you practice. You have to be positive, extremely positive. I am a very positive person. Okay, I can say that about myself, not boastfully, but I'm telling you by grace. I am extremely positive, even when everything has fallen down, when everything is not working. I'm such a man that will stand up and tell you that it's still possible. I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to forge ahead. It doesn't matter. It didn't grow up in one day. Okay, it took a lot from me to get to that point, and you must get to that point if you want to grow in life. Okay, so I must admit that it's extremely difficult, but it's a culture you must develop. And because many people don't understand this, they call you foolish. Okay, because most people naturally expect your head and destiny to be down when you fail. Lots of people expect you that when you fail you should be buried. All right, I'm telling you tonight, you're not going to be buried. All right, lift your head up. I remember the story that Les Brown told. Les Brown is one of my mentors that I listen to a lot, and he told the story of when he bought his mom a house. Okay, he bought the house and he did not do the deal search. Okay, deal search is to know if the owner was owing. He didn't do the deal search because he just believed blindly on the estate agent. And to cut the long story short, he lost the house after they've moved from the ghetto, okay, into a beautiful home. And then they lost the home and they had to come back to where they used to be. Do you know that how shameful that is? It's like deporting someone from Europe. You left and they had a big party for you that you live in Nigeria or you live in your country to Europe, and you believe that when you get there, money is going to come down from heaven and everything is going to be fine and all that. And maybe after 5, 6, 7 years, I don't know what happened, you get deported back. Do you know that a lot of people have committed suicide because of that? A lot of people have been deported, and up till now, they've not been able to get their footing. Why? Because of shame, because they've buried themselves, because they've allowed people to bury their destiny. Listen, I'm telling you tonight, you need to understand that even in that failure, you need to enjoy the pain, all right? Don't deal as though there is no pain. Don't deal as though there is no failure. Yes, but you need to understand how to enjoy that pain, but you have to grow out of it. Okay, you have to grow out of it. So people naturally expect you to bury your head and bury your destiny when you fail, but it's left for you to say no. Even though I failed, even though this failed, even though I made a wrong decision, I'm going to stand, and I'm going to stand for it. I'm a better person and I have grown. That should be your joy. Okay, so when the Bible says that we should rejoice even when we are persecuted, we should rejoice when we go through trials and tribulations, the Bible ain't joking. It's saying that we should grow to the point where we can understand that we have become masters of what has fallen us down. All right, so that's very important for you. So you must learn to enjoy the pain of failure. Know that it is the only way to grow. When you know that that's the only way by which you can grow, then you have no choice than to learn how to enjoy even that pain. And number 2, you need to understand you have lessons to pick up from what has happened. Don't just assume that, okay, it's painful now, when the pain goes down, I just live my normal life. No. You need to see failure as an opportunity to learn. Hello. So if you love knowledge, and knowledge is growth, knowledge is wealth, knowledge is progress. So if you love knowledge, you will love to enjoy the pain of failure, okay? Because you will understand that there are lessons for you to pick up even when you have failed. Number 3, rejoice, because after that failure, you probably are not going to fail in the same way again. If you fail in the same thing that you failed in before, it means that you did not learn from that failure, and that's why you are repeating that class of failure. And until you learn from that, you will never grow. So the reason why we've never grown, the reason why our ministries have not grown, the reason why our businesses are not growing is because we've been failing over and over, and we've not been learning from that failure. Or maybe we've not been admitting that we've been failing. And that's why we keep doing the same things the same way, and then we get the same results. All right. Now, let me say lastly here that you should also be thankful that you will not be where you used to be after that experience. Okay, so that gives you some joy that, okay, now I failed, it's painful, I'm in the pains, but I'm not going to be where I used to be. All right. So when you remember, those are the things I remember when I'm going through my process and the pains of failure. And those things gives me joy. It gives me encouragement. Okay. David encouraged himself in the Lord when the people were downcast and they cried their lives out and everything was lost. The Bible says he encouraged himself in the Lord. Was he going through pains then? Yes. But how did he get his joy? He got his joy because he knows that there is still a future. He knows that it can never be worse than what it has been. All right. I'm telling you that tonight. It will never get worse than what it has been. It can only get better. But that's if you learn from your failure. So you need to understand that there is joy and rejoicing in the pains of failure. Number 2, which I will be rounding up with tonight, is to endure the pain. Hello, this is very important, and please listen to me carefully. You know, God created us with this instinct to run away from pain. And like I said to you, and like you know, I don't need to say that to you, that there is pain in failure. All right? I mean, someone that just lost all his life savings in an investment. Which one did they do last in Nigeria? MLM, all those stuffs around in Nigeria. I mean, you can imagine if someone sold his house, or he took all his life savings and put into that, and he lost everything. I mean, I'm just imagining. I don't know anyone that did that, but definitely there will be people. I mean, there's so much greed in the heart of men. I mean, I know that there will be people that have done that. I mean, maybe that has just lost all. I mean, you can tell how painful that is. I mean, that's very painful. But the truth is that the instinct of man is to quickly run away from that pain, is to quickly cover up that pain. And that's why a lot of times we point fingers. Okay, we want to lay blames. We don't want to take responsibility, because we feel that the more we take responsibility for the failure, the more pain that we have. Why? Because we keep condemning ourselves, and then we get more pain. And that's why a lot of people prefer to point fingers. No, he was supposed to do that. He was supposed to do that. It's because he didn't do that. It's because he didn't do that. No, that's not the best way. Okay. And that's why I'm talking about this second point, that after you have enjoyed the pain of failure, then you should endure the pain. Hello. God made failure for us to learn from. That's the way we grow. Hello? That's the way we grow. So if you keep running away from your failure, you keep running away from the opportunity to grow. If you keep running away from failure, you keep running away from the opportunity to learn. So how are you going to learn new things if you don't fail? And how are you going to learn new things if you run away from your failure? All right? No, you don't need to run away from it. You need to learn from it. You need to endure. You need to stay in there. Hello? You need to stay. I mean, there is a time there is a process that you need to go through. And until you go through that process, you might not get every knowledge, every lesson that you need to get from that failure. And that's very dangerous, because it's very possible that you will commit the same error if you don't wait. Okay, and that's why I believe that in churches, when you sin or you commit an error, there is a what they call punishment. Okay, they put you under punishment or discipline. That time is not to condemn you. It's not to make you feel like you're going to hell. No, it's for you to be able to go through a process and understand and take the lessons out of the failure that you have committed. The problem I have with lots of ministries today is they just place people under punishment, or suspend them, or chase them out of the church. And that's very dangerous, because you just set a wounded lion out, and that wound might not heal. That wound might kill the person. Or the person it might heal and the person will become wild. All right. So, you need to understand that even though this person is going through punishment, but there should be a process, there should be a way for them to make them understand and learn from their mistakes. Okay, so and the same thing for you. I mean, even in your business, you've made an error. Don't just sweep it under the carpet. No, bring it to the table. All right, stay in it. Every time you talk about it, you might experience the pain, yeah, but you have to learn your lessons. Okay, so like I said, you have to endure the pain. So I say here, I said instinctively, when we fail, we naturally want to make it right immediately. Have you, like I said, you begin to lay blames, you begin to point fingers. Oh, I'm poor because my father didn't send me to school. I'm poor because they favored my brother over me. I'm poor because no. Listen, accept that there is a failure. Enjoy the pain of the failure, okay, knowing that you are a better person, knowing that you are not longer where you used to be, knowing that you probably won't make that same mistake again. But at the same time, you need to endure, okay, in the pain. You need to relax and learn. Okay, why did I fail? Okay, this is what happened, that is what happened. Should I have done it like this? Should I have done it like that? You seek counsel. You ask people that have failed like that before. You ask people that know better than you. You get counsel. That is when you need people that can build you, okay, not outside the failure, inside that failure. They need to show you how messy things are, why things are like that, not on the immediate. Okay, let the person first of all find joy. Let him first rejoice in the pain of his failure, not when someone is hot and someone is down and then the business is down, and then that's the time you begin to lash and say, no, you shouldn't have done that, it was your mistake. No. It's process by process. The first thing is he should be able to understand and find a way to rejoice in the pain of his failure. And then after that, we need to allow him to endure the pain. And in that time, he will learn. Okay? So I say here that we want to quickly lay blames. I mean, these are some of the things we do immediately we encounter failure. We want to quickly lay blames, point fingers, explain why. You don't need to explain why. Take your time, okay? Don't explain why. Just look at what you have done. Don't give the reasons. Just look at what you have done and what has gone wrong, okay? Now, explain the why, and then we want to kill the pain of failure. No. Failure in business has made people to go borrow in order to quickly recover. All right, you have a stock of particular product. I'm talking business now, and maybe the price just fell, and then you lost. It's possible. A lot of times, the first thing you want to do is look for who can borrow you money to quickly restock. Why? Because you don't want people to know that you failed. No, you don't need to do that. All right, you need to endure in the pain. People are going to talk shit. Forget people. People will always talk. Okay, whether you're succeeding or you're failing, people will always talk. So it's not about them. It's about you. It's about you calming down and understanding what you should do next. Not to quickly go and borrow. I did that a couple of times when I was when I started trading forex. You know, let me say this for some of us that are traders, you'll understand a bit. You know, when let me just use the layman's language. When the currency pair, we trade currency pairs. When the currency pairs goes up, then you place a sell order expecting it to fall. Okay. Now, sometimes it won't just fall, then it keeps rising. So when it rises above your margin level, you can lose all your capital. And that happened to me so many times. Of course, it's still happening, okay? You lose money in Forex. That's not a big deal. But, I mean, what really happens is when the thing now goes so high, I mean, it goes maybe to an all-time high, and then you've lost all your capital. When I started trading then, when I was still learning, the next thing I do is I quickly want to look for money somewhere so that I can quickly put money back and then place a sell. Probably I will be able to recover. I used to do that a lot, okay? Sometimes maybe I'll recover a little, but the truth is I found out afterwards that that is not the best way to learn. Why? Because I was trying to cover up my failure. And that's what a lot of us do. You want to cover up your failure. In covering up failures, you know, a lot of people tell lies, all right? You've been unfaithful to your wife, and then she gets to know, and then you begin to lie. Why? Because you want to cover it up. No, you don't need to cover it up. I've seen fathers that have never been there for their kids when they needed to be there. For one excuse or the other, And now that probably they feel like, oh, I failed in this area, then they want to over pamper the kids. What the kids don't even know, they begin to give to them. That's wrong. Excuse me, that's very wrong. It's like quickly covering up, the pain of the failure. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to understand how to endure the pain of failure. Okay, so it's a phenomenon, it's a process, because if you don't do that, you will never grow, and it's very likely that you will still commit the same error and you will still fail again. All right, so in life, even though naturally, instinctively, we want to quickly cover up for our failure, but please never do that. After you have rejoiced and enjoyed the pain of failure, you have to learn how to endure the pain of failure. Okay, I said here, it says that everyone that rushes to take decisions after experiencing failure often make worse mistakes. Okay, because you're not settled. You have not endured the pain. You need to endure the pain. Okay, like Jesus, he endured the shame. He endured the pain. He despised the shame. You have to endure the pain, okay, so that you don't make more mistakes. Okay, so you must learn to endure the pain. Pain doesn't kill, it teaches. I think I'm going to put that on my Facebook. Pain does not kill, it teaches. Have you ever seen someone that pain killed him? Pain doesn't kill. Pain just shows that there is problem somewhere. They say the pain is too much. It's actually not the pain that is too much. It's the problem that is too much. Pain just tells you the level of the problem. Hello? It just tells you the level of the problem. If you're having headache, it's not the headache that kills you. It's the problem in your head that killed you. The headache just shows you how, in Spanish, say grave, how serious that problem is. Okay, that's what the pain tells you. So pain doesn't kill, it teaches. So don't be quick to kill pain when you experience failure. The best way to manage it is to enjoy the pain, endure it, and lastly, evolve from failure. Please, this is simple. Evolve means evolve. Evolve means rising up. Evolve means lift up your head. Evolve means get out of it. Okay? After you have enjoyed the pain, after you have endured it and you've learned all your lesson, don't stay there. Tonight, I want to tell you, whatever you have experienced before, whatever failure you have experienced, whether you are still there, let me tell you, tomorrow is a new day. It's a brand new day. Something new can happen in your life, in your destiny, in your business, in your ministry. You need to evolve. It's time for you to evolve from your pain. You need to evolve not as someone that has been conquered, but as someone that has learned. You need to understand that you are no longer where you used to be, even though you are not where you want to be. But because you have endured that pain, because you have learned your lesson, you are not where you used to be. I want to say to you tonight, I don't know who I'm talking to tonight, but I want to tell you that it's time for you to get out of that failure and try something new. Don't be scared. If a child is trying to walk, they don't just stand up and walk in a day. They stand up, they walk a little, and they fall. They stand up, they walk a little, and they fall. I knew of a child that stood up and was walking and fell. And because he fell, everybody shouted when he was going to fall. Ah! And as they screamed, the child was caught up in fear. And the child never walked again until after about 6 years. Why? Because he had the fear to try again. I don't know how much people have shouted about your failure. I don't know how much they shouted about it. Maybe they broadcasted it on the news. They put it on the newspaper about your error, about your company that folded up. Listen to me. It's high time for you to try something new. Don't be like that child that remained for 6 years without walking when he could have gotten up the second year and start walking again. It is normal for you to fail in life. People fail. Things fail. Even Jesus, so many things failed around him, but he was never a failure. Jesus himself never failed. Even when things failed, there was always a solution. Even when storms arise, there will always be a solution. You're not going to die in that storm. Don't bury yourself because people have buried you with your failure. You need to rise up tonight. You need to evolve from that failure. And I see you starting a new thing, starting something brand new. Start a new business. Think differently. Don't do the same things you've done before because you've learned your lesson. Start something new today. Even if you're going to fail tomorrow, it doesn't matter. You will do another one next tomorrow. Never ever stop. I'm just that positive about you tonight. I know that if you can put yourself together, you can go back to school. You don't need to call yourself a dropout. You don't need to call yourself an illiterate because somebody said that about you. You've stayed there for too long, okay? You need to rise up right now and begin to try new things. Those things that have been like mountains to you, begin to climb them. You know what Les Brown says, and I'm ending with that tonight. It says that when life comes knocking at your door, let it not find you climbing down a mountain, but let it find you climbing a new mountain. There is always a new mountain for you. I want you to begin to climb it tonight, and I will see you at the top. I'm going to be here again next week, like I promised you. I'm going to be bringing in some guests that we're going to be treating some questions. I will have some questions. I'm going to call them in, and we're going to have a wonderful time next week. I know that you've been blessed tonight. I want you to watch this video again, take notes, watch the one before this, and next week we're going to be having some questions. I mean, on business, on ministry. I'll give you some more details on my Facebook page, TopSol, and also on Cleveland TV. We're going to make some adverts before next week, but next week is going to be powerful. Thank you very much for watching tonight. Share this video, and the Lord will bless you. Thank you very much.